Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those who do not know me, my name is Khidr and this is KhidrUnveiled. So today is all about a little story time of my first travel assignment. Listen, we're gonna get right into it. We're not even gonna play games because this is gonna be a good one. So for those who do not know, I am a travel nurse. I started traveling in December of 2019, which is crazy because it's already 2022. But I started traveling December of 2020. So I started traveling in December 2020. I went straight from my staffing job, which at the time I was in psychiatric nursing, geriatric psychiatric nursing, and I went straight into psychiatric traveling. So when I went into psychiatric traveling, I thought it was going to be a new experience, something exciting, because the job that I was in just wasn't cutting it. It was like, they called it geriatric psychiatric nursing, but it was like being at a nursing home. It was just really sad. Like sometimes it was more so of like conservatorship, meaning like the patients didn't have loved ones to take care of them, so we had to wait and watch them until the state picked them up. So it was more so of like that, and I was looking at that time to really get into more psych because I wanted to go to school for my doctorate of psychiatric nursing. So anyway, so I go into psychiatric nursing. I get my first traveling gig in December of 2020, and I'm super pumped. I'm super excited. This is when I started really looking into travel nursing. I heard about the money. So I didn't want to take an assignment like far away from home since it was my first travel assignment. And at the time I didn't even know you could do local traveling, but I had found this company that stated like you could do local traveling up to a certain amount of miles. So that's what I did. I started out local travel nursing, and I got into the psych facility, where at the time they were saying like, oh, that was one of the best in Baltimore and everybody goes there and everything. So I was pumped. I was like, oh, I got the job, I'm excited. Maybe this is somewhere I'll stay for a while if I like it. So I start, and honestly, I was just like, I don't see nothing that's exciting about this. It was short staffed like every other place. The walls and the hallways seemed very like gloomy and depressing, and I'm like, I understand this is a psych ward, but it shouldn't look like a psych ward to me, like especially if you're trying to get people out of like depression and all this stuff. Certain places, like the newer side of the facility, did have like updated stuff which looked nice, but it was just like a feel that you just knew like something's off, like this facility is not what it is. So I get in there and I find out that they have there are hiring for regular positions, where they call it like the residential, that you could live in, that you could work in, that people actually live in for a while until they get their psychiatric help, or their mental health correct. So I find out that in order to get to the residential, you gotta pay some money, like $35,000 a day. And I'm like, oh, their place must be nice, because if you paying that much money for your mental health or your psychiatric help, you got to be living in a large. And they later found out that, yeah, that was true. And of course, everybody is not able to get that type of treatment. So I signed on to my contract. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start, because originally I wanted to work in, I think it was like the drug and rehab section. That's like a passion of mine. I always wanted to work in like drug and rehab, and they were like, they didn't have any more positions in the drug and rehab, but I could work in the stabilization unit, where sometimes people might have like bipolar episodes or manic episodes, depression episodes, schizophrenic, stuff like that. And they would come there until other places have space, but we will also stabilize them. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Let's start. I get there, and when I say short staff, y'all, super short staff, like super short staff. So the charge nurse that we had, she was there for like one day, and then she wound up like retiring or transferring out. Then the other girl that I actually kind of like vibed with, she was there for maybe 2 weeks, and she had got a position, interviewed, and was out like no time. Like, no, I'm not coming back. Out. So it only left 2 people to be charge nurse. Well, it actually left 3 people to be charge nurse. Myself, this other lady who actually was a staff member there, and this older gentleman who's been there for like years. So I didn't sign up, like in my contract, I did not say like I had charge nurse experience, I'm willing to be a charge nurse. I didn't say any of that. And if it's not in my contract, I'm not supposed to do it. So the older guy, he winds up like having this knee surgery that's scheduled, so he's about to go out. He's leaving in like a week. So he's trying to teach the other girl how to do charge nursing, because there you had to do 5 days a week. So they was like, as long as she's there 5 days a week, I wouldn't have to do it because we work the same days. So he's trying to teach her. Honestly, she just was not getting it. Like, she was a couple fries short of a Happy Meal. You know what I'm saying? So everything just wasn't clicking. Like, circuits was missing each other, you know? So I already see like, oh, this might be a problem. I'm not gonna say nothing because, you know, I'm here as a traveler. I gotta do what I gotta do, but they gotta figure this out. I'm not in management. Well, the older guy leaves for surgery. He's not gonna be back for a while. And then the girl who's supposed to be charge nurse, she doesn't know anything about charge nurse, didn't ask questions. She told him that she fully understood. And then when it came down to be charge nurse, she was like, I don't know how to do any of this. I'm still learning. They didn't give me enough training. This and that. I don't understand. So I'm like, okay, well, go to your manager. Like, go to your manager, talk to her, because I can't do anything. I'm a traveler. I don't know none of y'all policies, procedures, unless I personally look them up when I'm taking care of my patient. That's all I know. So me being me, I'm the type of person that does catch on pretty quick. So I'm taking care of my patients pretty efficiently, if I must say myself. So I'm taking care of my patients efficiently. Remind you, I haven't been in psychiatric nursing for a while. I've only been in there for like a month, maybe. No, started traveling in December. I switched over to, okay, so I've been in psychiatric at this point for like 3 months. So I'm taking care of my patients, knowing like, okay, this is the treatment, this is how we fix this is the medication, whatever the case may be. And the manager of the unit, it was like, Khidr, I really like the way you work, blah, blah, blah. Do you think you can train such and such? So she says, do you think you can train this girl? And I'm looking at her like, honestly, like, I'm a traveler. I don't know anything about, you know, training this person in this facility, because I don't know none of your policies, procedures. I'm only here for X amount of days and X amount of weeks. Like, that's not my position. I don't feel comfortable with that. She's like, oh, I would train you and you would train her. So I'm like, so why can't you train her? So she's like, I'm just super busy and she just needs a lot of work and I just don't have that time. And I was like, yeah, but I'm a traveler. That's not in my contract. Like, I'm not comfortable with that. I will learn certain things, because in my job description, I have to learn how to like set up meetings with like the courts and the probational officers and the state and stuff like that. Like I'll learn how to do that, but like as far as training this person, I wasn't in it, so I wasn't. No. So I guess she didn't like that, because next thing you know, I was coming in for my shifts by myself, to the point where we would have, I think we had like 25, 27 psychiatric patients on the unit, and I would be the charge nurse. So one day I came in, when I seen, like, they was like, oh, Khidr, you're the charge nurse. And I was like, no, I'm not. I've never been trained to do a charge nurse. I don't know how to do this. And I was like, if something goes down, that's my license. Like, no. So I call her, the manager. First, she's not answering. So they like, well, what we gonna do? We gotta get assignments. We gotta get this. We gotta start working. Da, 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 da. I'm like, I don't know. Like, at this point, the patient's gonna take care of themselves, because I don't know. I'm not risking my license for this. Like, I don't know who she thinks she is. So she finally comes in like 8:30. I'm telling her, like, I don't know what you want me to do. I've never been trained in this. You know, I'm not a travel nurse who is trained in management. Like, I don't know. So she's like, oh, I'll make the assignment. I'm sorry. I thought I put another person on the list. You knew from the rip. So she comes over and she's like, well, I'm gonna just come and sit on the unit, and you know, I'll be like the charge nurse and you just follow me, whatever. So I'm like, well, your office is actually on the unit, so I'm not supposed to be doing any charge at all. So this goes on for, I want to say this goes on for like a couple weeks. Not even a couple weeks, I'm lying. This goes on for like 2-3 weeks, y'all. Because I was supposed to be there from December of 2020 to, I'm gonna say till March. I was supposed to be there till March, like mid-March of 2021. And I went through December because that's when everybody was there, like the other charge nurses was there. So I'm like, okay, December I'm here. January comes, that's like mid-January, that's when she's like, oh, you're gonna be charge nurse, this is that. So she kept placing it to the point where I had to be the charge nurse at this point, because the other girl, she didn't know what she was doing. We was always like fighting and putting out fires, and people was having like mental breakdowns, y'all. Like, and the other charge nurse, who should have known what to do, the one who actually works there, this patient was having a mental breakdown and he got up to swing at a nurse. And instead of calling what we call in the medical field like a code gray, meaning like a patient is getting rowdy, getting aggressive, we need security to come de-escalate this, or even for her to try to de-escalate it herself, she leaves the female nurse out there with the patient by herself. And this patient is huge. This patient is like 6 foot something, and the aide, she's not even a nurse out there, she leaves the aide, excuse me, not the nurse, she leaves the aide out there and runs in the back. And she's like, I don't know what to do. What should I do? He's getting out of control. I'm like, call a code gray. Like, get medication. Do this, do that. She's like, where is that? I'm like, oh my gosh. So I tell another aide, like, call a code gray, and I go out to the floor, because at this time, like, the patient who was going off, I had like a okay rapport with him. So I go out there and I'm like, what is wrong? And he's yelling and he's about to swing, and I'm like, don't you swing. I was like, I'm telling you now, I need you to calm down. I was like, I am here. No one is going to attack you. Just calm down. So he's looking at me, and he's looking at me like he's about to attack, y'all. And I'm just like, listen, you come storming at me, I'm running out the door. Like, I know how to get out of here. So he looks at me, and he's just going off, and he's just like ready to fight and this. And I'm like calming him down, trying to get him calmed down. And finally, the security guards are, you hear it over the intercom, like, code gray on stabilization unit, da 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 da. And you see the security guards come. And he looks around, and he's instantly about to fight them. And I'm telling them, like, I'm doing this, like, calm down, like, I got this, y'all, just stay back. So I'm telling the patient, hey, look at me, don't pay attention to them, look at me. And I'm like, I need you to calm down, or they will step in. He's like, I'm just tired. And he's like breaking down, and he's having this mental breakdown. And at this point, I'm looking at the charge nurse. She's still behind the glass, she's still hiding. And I'm like, okay. So I'm telling the guy, like, sit here, just sit here and talk to me. So he sits down, and I finally get him to talk to me. And I tell the tech who was out there with me, and I was like, go tell her that she needs to call his therapist. She needs to call his therapist, his social worker, the psychiatric doctor, whoever, and tell them get over here now, because they need to talk to him. Period. That's what he wanted to talk to someone all day. And we as nurses should have been able to talk to him, but we were so short staffed. He got to the point where he was about to explode. I need somebody to come talk to him now. So I'm talking to him as much as I can. And someone finally comes. They bring him in the office. He's calm. Security leaves. My manager finally shows up. Remind you, she's in the office. She's our floor. Our unit is like this. Like, it's a huge circle. Her office is right here. We're right here. So she was close. The manager was close. So I see her, and I'm like, can I speak to you? She's like, oh yeah, Khidr, what would you like to speak about? This. And like, I'm really, at this point, I'm really disappointed, because she's also a black woman. She's a sister. So like, I expect more out of us when we're in management. Maybe that's something I need to work on. Maybe that's something I should not be putting on other people. But when I feel like we as African Americans, especially African American women, when we get placed in management, we should be able to handle things a certain way. Especially when 98% of your staff is black. 98% of your staff is black. You are a black manager. And instead of coming out there and handling it, making sure that your staff was safe, or even helping with staffing, you went off and hide and wanted to eat in the room and So I thought, like, I was like, I just feel like this situation could have been handled a lot different. A lot of people could have been hurt in this situation. Your charge nurse don't know what she's doing. You as a manager, she did not come out and help. I feel like you need to be here, especially when you have all new staff, a traveler, and people who really have not been here over a year or so. Like, I need you to step up. She was like, oh, I'm sorry you feel like that, and you know, I'm trying my best, and we had this going on. I was like, did you not hear the patient? The patient was yelling and about to hit a staff member. Oh, he was. I was like, so you didn't hear him? You didn't hear him yell? Like, chairs was being thrown. Like, people was about to get hurt. And she's just like, oh, you know, I tried to come out, but it was just so busy. My phone kept ringing. And I'm just like, I told her at that point, I was like, I don't know if this is something I can do. And I need more of you. I need to make sure that if I'm here, my license is protected. I'm not doing this, because this is very dangerous. So she's like, okay, we'll work on it, this and that, and all this stuff. It's just hard right now and all this stuff. So I'm thinking it's going to get better, y'all. It did. So fast forward to my next shift. I think this one I had wound up doing like 12-hour shifts or like 16-hour shifts, so I would be able to have off like 5 days in a row. So I come back, and at this time, this is like early February, probably mid-February, like right in around like Valentine's Day. And I come in, and I'm a staff. I'm a staff person. I'm not charged. But I'm working with this young lady who was like this brilliant young African American woman, had everything going for her, had the dream job, had the dream like life, and then all of a sudden she just wasn't the same anymore. And they brought her to us to try to figure out what was going on. Was it like a new onset of like schizophrenia, depression, catatonic, whatever? And we're working with her. So I'm working with her, and I want to say it was like that Monday we was working with her, and we gave her like this medication called Ativan, and it was knocking her out of what we call a catatonic state. A catatonic state is when you're just like sitting there like that, where you're just not showing any emotion. You may hear us, you may see things going on, but you're just not reacting. You just can't talk, like you're just there. Your body is just there. So we're giving her this Ativan around the clock. The first time she like would spit out the medication, and then we would try to like explain to her, hey, we're putting it in the applesauce, put it right in front of her, she would spit it out. And then eventually she became dangerous to the point she was falling, so we had to give her a shot. Once we gave her a shot, she started perking up, she started talking more, and then she would take her medication, right? So we got her to a point where she was talking and she was walking, and she was starting to open up about what was going on, what she was feeling. Well, I'm off the next day, and I come back, and she's back in this catatonic state. She's back in a state where she's not speaking at all. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, what the heck happened? So I'm talking to the other staff, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, what happened to her? They like, the nurses who was on the other night, the ones who was on overnight, they said that they was giving her the medication, but she was still declining. They don't know what's going on, this, that, and the third. So I'm like, okay, so did they try to, crush it up for her? They said she wasn't taking it. They said they gave it to her, but then she was still in that catatonic state, which wasn't making sense. I'm like, okay, did the EMR, which is electronic medical record, did it show that they like, crushed it up, or did they put it in a juice for her, or what? Did they give it in a shot? All they said is they gave it in a pill, but they also said that she wasn't able to take it one time, and then another time they did say she was taking it. So I was like, something seems off, like something's not right. And I'm glad when you are a nurse and you are in the medical field, listen to your gut, because it's nothing worse than not following your gut and knowing you was right. So fast forward, I'm like, something's off about this whole situation. So remind you, I'm a staff at this point. I'm just a regular staff nurse, still on assignment. And this other guy who usually like only works like every once in a while, he was a charge nurse that day. So he came in, and while he was on charge nursing, he was also doing pharmacy. And then eventually the other girl who was supposed to be charge nurse, who really didn't know much, she came in and just took over charge nursing. So now we have the charge nurse, we have the guy who was charge nurse, now pharmacy, or the person that hands out meds, and then I'm just a regular staff nurse, on the floor nurse, who's watching over what we call the loo or the loud or whatever. So I'm sitting there, and charge nurse sitting behind the desk like she always do, behind the glass, not interacting with the patients like she's supposed to, not monitoring. I'm sitting there and I'm walking around making sure everybody's good, and then I get to a one-to-one, to the point where this person is a safety issue, this person is about to harm themselves, and you have to watch them. So I'm watching my patient, and then my one girl who was perking up but now back in her state, they take her in this room, this glass room where you could like pull the curtains. But they left the curtains open enough so the staff could see them and what they was doing. So I'm like, this is a little fishy. I don't like what's going on here. I hear her like trying to like moan, and they're like, hold still. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're giving her a shot to try to perk her up, you know, for safety reasons. I look over, and y'all, they are taking this young girl by the face, like squeezing her face like this, and took medication and poured it down her throat and was trying to make her swallow. First of all, mentally, she was not there. She mentally could not swallow. Like, her body just was not functioning the way our normal bodies was. I literally watched them pull medication down this girl's throat, holding her face, pulling medication down her throat, and them holding her until she tried to swallow. They was messing with her throat. They was trying to do everything. So I'm like, oh no, that's it. Like, that's the last straw. So they're in there for a while, and then I can't leave this patient because this patient is a suicide risk who I'm watching. The charge nurse comes out, and I'm like, what was that? And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, did I just see y'all pour No, she was drinking it, and I'm like, no, I know what I seen. I know what I seen. She's like, well, she needed to take the medication. Then she started confessing. So at that time, I got off, I think that was like 5 or something. I got off at 7. I got off, wrote my note, wrote my email. Hi, Mrs. So-and-so. Thank you for the opportunity to travel to your facility. At this time, I will be ending my travel assignment with you. This is a very unsafe assignment. My license is at risk, and here is why. And I started listing all of what was going on that she was not taken care of. And then I put it in there that your staff members and your med nurse held a patient by their face and made them drink medication against their will, which is illegal. At this point, I will not be returning. I will be, leaving. I understand if you put a do not return on my application or on my file. Thank you for the opportunity. Goodbye. And I signed my name and sent it to her. Now, when they put a DNR or do not return for traveling, that means you cannot come back to the facility. It's not the same as in the medical field when you say DNR, do not resuscitate. A DNR is do not return for a traveler. So after that night, I also sent an email to my recruiter. Hey, thanks for the opportunity to travel to this facility. This is very unsafe. I need to know, can y'all report this? Because this is what happened. And I laid out everything. This is unsafe. This is against the will. And then they wasn't talking to the parent. They wasn't giving the parent any information. Like, it was just sketchy. Like, a lot of stuff was, they would choose who they want to speak to, although their name wasn't on the file, but they wouldn't speak to the mother. So it was just a lot of sketchy stuff going on. And don't get me wrong, some things there I did enjoy. Like, it was a lot of young people there who I connected with. I was able to speak with and share my story with, where they were able to like get their life better, get their life back on track, and was able to feel better. But the bad outweighed the good so much. Like, once I seen them grab this girl by her face and once I seen them, held this young girl by her face and force her to take medication against her will, I was done. So to finish this all off, once I sent my emails to my recruiter, I sent my emails to the manager, and then I called my recruiter the next day to make sure she got my email. And she was like, what happened? I seen the email, but I just wanted to double check. So I told them, again, verbatim, this is what happened. Ain't no twisting it, ain't no sugarcoating, no nothing. And I gave, like, I don't care what you call it. You can call me a snitch all you want. I gave names and everything. These are the people. Check them. Because it didn't make sense how 1 minute this girl was lively and we was getting her back on track, and the next minute y'all saying y'all gave the medication, but she wasn't reacting. She wasn't getting better. But when we was there, she was getting better. People was talking with her. She was dancing. Like, she was getting better, but all of a sudden she would regress with y'all. Something wasn't right. So told my recruiter, sent the manager her information, the information, and then someone from my company at that time, like a real high up, called, and I think it was like a clinical manager, and he was like, what happened? Like, I got an email saying you quit, and this is what happened. Like, I need to know exactly what happened, because this is an offense. So I told him, word for word, verbatim, again, this is what happened. I seen it with my own 2 eyes. If you need me to testify, I'll testify. This is what happens. This is very unsafe. No. So they contact the manager themselves. My company contacts the manager. And she was like, I just don't know why she would say that. I tried to reach out to her, and she's not getting back to me, this. And my recruiter reached out to me like, hey, this person is saying they're trying to reach out to you, but you're not getting back. And I simply wrote my recruiter back and said, she has been trying to contact me via phone. I specifically said in my email, I would only speak to her about the situation via email, because I don't want what happened to not be documented. And she does not want it to be documented. I do not feel safe. I was there as a nurse, and I need to report an incident. If you do not want to report it via email where we have a paper trail, we will not speak. So the recruiter was like, oh, okay, that's what happened. Cool. So I reached out to her, to the manager again, and was like, hi, such and such. I have received your phone calls. I specifically said in my last email, we will be corresponding via email to make sure that this incident is recorded properly. If you feel uncomfortable with doing that, we do not have to speak. And then she just never got back to me after that. And honestly, I don't know what happened. I don't know if state ever went in, because I left. Like, when I say I left that day, I left that day. I never returned. So I don't know if state went there. I don't know if she was removed from the position, if the other nurse was removed from the position, or if they was just given education and training. But for me, for Khidr, I was out. I couldn't do it, because as a nurse, we are there to protect and to serve and to ensure that someone is safe. That was not a safe environment. So for me, I had to leave. I had to leave that facility because it was so unsafe. So yeah, so that was how my first travel assignment. After that one, I was just like, I don't even know if travel nursing is for me. Like, so yeah, I quit like 3-4 weeks before my actual assignment ended, and I was done. I was over it. But I'm a travel nurse now, y'all, and I've had some more stories, which we're gonna have more story time. But yeah, that was my story time of my first travel assignment in psychiatric nursing, and I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys learn a lesson never to do that to your patients. Please be a good nurse, because we have some that don't need to be. We don't need more. I love you guys. If you like this type of story time, make sure that you like this video. Please make sure you like this video, and make sure you comment down below of what you thought about the story time. Also, if you are not a returning subscriber, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. Make sure that you come back, and I hope I get to see you guys soon. I love you. Peace.